some hurdles that individual stakers of ETH, experience. One is, more. It's starting to serve more and more institutional clients, right? Having the 32 ETH barrier, not a lot of people have 32 ETH just to shill out. So having the number two currency locked in a one-way ticket, you have no liquidity, and there's less access to staking rewards for that are in a non-custodial fashion for 32 people who have less than 32 ETH. And the knowledge barrier, as you all know, and technological barriers can be hard for individuals who are new to the space, and just to keep up with the fast pacedness of all the updates. And so, Derek, you want to go to the next slide? Want to thank DAppNode again for hosting us. And so, we found some synergies together. We want to really try to democratize access to ETH validator rewards, lowering that bar to access staking rewards on all fronts. And we'll talk about more. Derek will talk more about that later, how that happens. Really trying to empower individual participants with non-custodial solutions. So look, that meet those pain points. And essentially where Stakehouse ends is where DAppNode begins. So in our current, DevNet, take your validator, you'll see this later on. And where we end is where DAppNode picks up. So that's a really cool synergy there where things pick off, pretty easy onboard, offboard. And then Stakehouse is looking to remove the friction on the front end, like I said, and removing those friction points as much as possible for the entire blockchain community. So Derek, I'll let you hand it over to the next one if you want to hop in, or there's anything you want to mention.
Yeah, so as far as the frictions go that Amir is referring to is with the Stakehouse UI, as you'll see later, users are able to create a non-custodial validator, and they can do so in about 60 seconds rather than the normal process. That's still possible. People can still create their validator using the CLI, but there is an interface with Stakehouse that can expedite that process. So at its core, what Stakehouse does is it creates this connection between the execution layer and the consensus layer. And the way that works is people come in with their 32 ETH and they stake, with the Ethereum deposit contract, and they register it with Stakehouse. And what Stakehouse does is it allows people to claw back their ETH in derivative tokens. And this is done, without a pool or a price peg or an oracle. And what it is that at any time the Stakehouse registry can reconcile a derivative ETH in the marketplace compared to the ETH within a validator. Now this means that, with this connection, it's not it's much more regulatory compliant because the person who's holding their derivative ETH has this direct claim to the underlying ETH. So it is liquid staking, but it isn't synthetic liquid staking because you aren't giving up custody of assets. You retain your derivative ETH, which can then be, once withdrawals are enabled, can be returned to get your exact ETH out from your validator. And these two derivative tokens are DETH, which collects, this is most similar to, WETH, but with interest-bearing capabilities, because it's collecting all the staking rewards from the beacon chain and putting them onto the derivative ETH. And then there's the slot tokens, and the slot tokens are the actual validator ownership and collect the network revenue. So we're going to keep moving here. There's a lot of different benefits around what Stakehouse can do. And, first of all, it is just a public benefit infrastructure. And the reason we built it that way was because we want to see more and more people stake their own validators. And we're doing this in a very non-custodial way, and we're not collecting any commissions. And, it very much aligns with our mission that we don't want to collect commissions because this is non-custodial. But at the end of the day, because we're never touching anybody's ETH on the way in, and we're not touching anybody's derivatives on the way out, it's actually impossible for us to collect commissions on it because we don't own any tokens. We never hold on to any tokens. This is literally a user coming in, staking 32 ETH, and then minting their own derivatives, and they remain in control. And they'll have their own dashboard where they can see everything. And then, yeah. So as far as how this kind of relates to node runners is it doesn't change too much really at all because a node runner can still come in. They have their keys and they can set up their node in the exact same way, but now they have these derivative tokens which are collecting the rewards. And it's very much it's a tooling, it's a middle layer stakehouse. So users are able to come in and build around it and create any sort of scenarios that they want. And the stakehouse team at BlockSwap is actually creating out various SDKs if people want to come in and create sort of different customizations. And so when people stake, like the concept of a stakehouse, right, is they're collectives of validators. So somebody could create a stakehouse and other people can join the stakehouse and they're kind of sharing rewards, right? But a user could also section off their stakehouse so that only they can add validators to it. So it's customizable in the sense where you can create these collectives and these communities around staking to kind of ease out the rewards curve, or you can just run them all yourself if somebody wants to say start a liquid staking business, or they're already taking on other people's validators. They could take on all these validators, put them all in a stakehouse together as one and manage them as a single unit rather than doing them all individually. So another topic that's kind of interesting, which I'm sure a few of you have kind of picked up on, since we do have these two types of tokens, the derivative ETH and the slot tokens, a user has a lot of latitude to sort of choose what rewards they want and how they can get these rewards. So when you stake 32 ETH, you end up with 24 derivative ETH and 8 slot tokens. And a user can choose to hold on to all of it, or they can sell it in part. And so really somebody could sell this derivative ETH to the market and collect all network revenue, MEV fees, gas fees, etc., for only 8 ETH. And this is kind of powerful because it allows people who just want access to, to collect gas fees and MEV rewards rather than worrying about staking rewards to actually get a lot more validators for a lower fee. They do have to do it up front because we can't change the Ethereum deposit contract looking for 32 ETH. But what they can do is choose which parts of the rewards that they want. And they can even sell off parts of their slot tokens as well if they really want to sort of reduce cost. But then they are indeed giving up some of those rewards as well. So I guess like at this point, if anybody has any questions, you can feel free to kind of chime in here, or if I'm missing anything, Matt or Amir, if you guys want to step in and kind of explain a little bit more about this.
Yeah, Derek, why don't you mention a little bit about redeemability?
Right. Yeah. So again, I think I touched on it a little bit, but what kind of keeps Stakehouse floating is the idea that everybody's looking out for their own best interest, and part of that is this derivative ETH and these slot tokens are always redeemable for the underlying ETH, which is very powerful because when you kind of think it's powerful because people can essentially trade this around, and there's no need for an oracle or a peg because if the price of anything kind of gets out of whack, they can just sort of redeem it rather than having to find another bag holder.
Why don't you just show it?
Yeah. Yeah, good idea. So we'll hop in here now to our UI. This is our interface. As you can see, there's no validators in this wallet. So all we have to do is we click, create a validator. So now we have easy mode and expert mode. Expert mode is, downloading the CLI, generating your validator keys that way, where easy mode automates much of this process. So we can go in here, easy mode, you create a
I feel
password.
like most DAppNode users have already been hardened, battle tested by the hard mode already.
Yeah, exactly. And it's funny because
it's quite nice to have an easy mode as well.
Yeah, there's such a barrier in place for people to get involved, and there's these technical barriers that kind of bringing some of those down into an easier mode can make things a lot easier. And this process, when we time it, it takes about 60 seconds. Obviously, I'm talking, and it's going to take longer. But so here, simply, we come in here, I create the password. Sorry, what was that?
Sorry,
No, I think it was just
I think it was
noise.
someone's mic leaking here.
Okay, got it. So we're confirming, and then all that's kind of been done in the background. All the expert mode's been done in the background. So now a user just simply has to register their validator and approve. And what registering the validator is doing is it's making this connection between ETH1 and ETH2 so that you are able to actually make your derivatives and claw back the ETH from the beacon chain. Here it's asking you to download the files, which obviously you want to keep safe. These are your key store files. And then you just deposit the 32 ETH. We ask that you confirm your password again.
Is this actually safe? Because normally don't we generate this like in an offline computer?
It's safe because it's not storing anywhere. It's only with you and the chain safe BLS key generator that's been provided by the EF and supported. No one is actually having any kind of access to generating. But if you are an expert, if you want to have like air-gapped computer, just do it. That's better. But no one is touching here anything about your keys. Only you can have it.
I see.
And yeah, that's what we are saying it, download it, store it. Only you have the password to the key store. If you lose it, that comes with a non-custodial thing comes with accountability, right? So you just have to give it. That's why we just take that confirmation at the last step. Yeah, but we also to encrypt that on blockchain, but only you can decrypt it. That's another whole topic, why that is there. But no one can touch your passwords, or no one can touch your keys. Only you have it.
So when you generate this with the difficult modes, you would be receiving a mnemonic that you can always use to regenerate the key store and the deposit files, and to even generate more key stores if necessary. Could you explain what happened to that part?
Yeah. So Derek, can you go to the expert mode? It's basically your normal. It eats to, root. Create validator, it will take you to expert mode. Just you just download the CLIs from the Ethereum GitHub page. Download the CLI. If you have a Linux or Windows or Mac, everything same as you do in a Launchpad. But if you don't have that kind of technical capability, and if you still want to have that's where we're coming in. Say that make it that 0 to 1 journey faster.
Yeah.
People who have money don't have enough time, or they don't really have enough patience, or they're scared to do that. They lose it. It's about $100,000, right? So they want
absolutely.
Yeah. That's where we come into.
I think this is amazing to have this part. I was just wondering what happens, or if there's any way to recover that mnemonic, and to generate more key stores.
So in the easy mode, we just don't throw the mnemonic to you because there's no use for that. So every time that you're using a new one, right, in the easy mode. But if in the expert mode you have the mnemonic, you can keep it. That's same as what you do in ETH2, the expert mode. Simple. There's no other
Right.
changes. Expert mode, yeah.
So, okay, perfect. So there's actually no way to recover that mnemonic when you're
There's
using the easy mode.
Yeah, so there's no need for it because it's prefetched, and then you just go for it.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Cool. All right. No problem.
Cool. So that takes us to this confirmation page, right? And this is where Stakehouse ends, and where the DAppNode journey really begins, because we don't do anything with nodes. It's very much validator creation, create this connection between ETH1 and ETH2, allow people to mint their own derivatives, not a pool or Oracle based synthetic, but an actual derivative of their validator. And they can then set up. This is very much, like a public benefit infrastructure where we're not collecting commissions. This is just purely to make things easier and give people an option to liquid stake without giving up their keys. So then here, we have to wait for the UI to sort of update to see the validator, and here it is. And so here's the dashboard with Stakehouse. And you'll see there's the derivative ETH, and we have the slot tokens here as well. And once this is up on the beacon chain in about 8 hours, I'll be able to come here and mint my derivatives.
So I'll add a sentence here because DAppNode guys are really technical.
Yeah, please.
There's a fork rule. Everyone knows that there's a fork rule. Distance need to be covered that need to be accepted as a deposit to be confirmed by the beacon chain, and that's the time you just say that you're allowed to mint a derivative, right? Once the beacon chain. So once the 32 ETH has been fired, we just need to wait up until it just fetched to the beacon chain. From that point onwards, Stakehouse will track your deposit, that 32 ETH, from beacon chain. I'm just using for beacon chain for the time being. From the consensus layer, sorry about that, from the consensus layer back to the execution layer, right? So from now, your stake is getting tracked. Maybe I can show you like how the minting and the key part of the Stakehouse is it just expose all the data points of a staked ETH from the consensus layer to Ethereum DeFi dApps. So what does that mean? Any DeFi dApps, let it be Aave, Compound, anyone, right, or Wi-Fi, they can deterministically calculate each and every validator's yield, right? That how much it's been earned, what epoch it is, what is the current thing on the DETH balance. So you can just go to the DETH and say that this is my yield rate. It automatically get that fetch that through the Stakehouse contract. So that's the contract. That's the massive contract that we built, fetching the information from the consensus layer, make it available in a usable fashion for the DeFi dApps. I'm gonna just show you that, and this is all available through the graph. That's a one mechanism, but you can get that from the node because it's directly fetching from the blockchain node. So this is the cross-chain factor that we're saying. There's no Oracle, there's nothing. It's a verified information, tamper-proof information, just getting repropagated and make it available on Ethereum. So you can basically build new kind of DeFi, primitive using ETH, staked ETH yield. So there's no dilution here. There's no pooling here. So anyone can go and create a savings account with 7% directly coming from ETH to staking. Anyone can create a money market. Just plug in, with a half an hour code base, like a hacking, and say that ETH will give you 4%. Just plug in with the Stakehouse D ETH, and you can get all the details, the house yield per validator yield, or the curated list of the validator. So this will let DeFi, a kid can create any kind of instruments on the DeFi without even thinking about how do I get this yield, what kind of tokens that I need to incentivize to get this kind of new farming things going. But because the perpetual yield is coming from the in the ETH, once the merge happened, then the network revenue will kicks off, that the slow token will start earning the gas fees and other stuff. Then you have different kind of cash flow kind of instrument will come, because all this, the data of the consensus layer is getting propagated back. Maybe I can show you in 30 seconds once I minted the derivative what you can see on the graph today. And this, you can go and see it. We're going to drop some links. You can see it on Gorley, all the graph information, how much information of the consensus layer things has been exposed to ETH1 today. Shall I share?
Yeah. I'll share. Before we do that, I just kind of want to wrap up a few things on this presentation, and then we can kind of get to that. And I just want to let everybody know that we're going to be at Devconnect in Amsterdam on the 19th, and it'd be great to chat with any and all of you. We'll be having an all-day event. We're looking to give away a few DAppNodes at the event as well. So you could be a lucky person to get a DAppNode. We're looking for people who want to, utilize the Stakehouse protocol and with DAppNode, because we see so many great synergies there. Okay, so Matt, after that, now I can let you share your screen if you'd like to come in here and show them the minting process.
Yeah, sure, definitely. So where is it? Cool. So busy. Cool. So I'm gonna start minting. So it just, the screen, I don't know if you can see it. It basically checking is my validator is eligible to mint a derivative. That is, it is already passed, and it checks the balances. Is there any leakage and things like that? So it says that I can just go and join, and it immediately says that 24D then it's slow token. So here I'm submitting all my consensus layer data with an SDK, with the help of an SDK behind the scenes, to Ethereum execution layer, and telling the contract, hey, I have this validator, I'm the one, I'm signing the data, and you can deterministically confirm my data is there. Can I mint the derivative? And the contract says yes, then I'm going to mint the derivative. But I just this is like risk, just making sure the validator is same, confirm, and it just mint. This is like, here I'm making my validator liquid, including all the DETH and slow tokens, right, coming into the wallet, right?
So just to kind of note here, when you're minting your derivatives, you're deciding which stakehouse that you'll be entering. And this is the idea for the DevNet right now. It is very much just pushing people to the house stakehouse, which is Apollo, because we want more and more users to get into one stakehouse. We can kind of test that. But for people who want to, set up their own business or want to, run their own nodes, we can share with them a special UI to actually create a stakehouse and then add validators specifically to that stakehouse, because so much of this is forkable. And the UI that I shared for actually onboarding validators can be forked so that it funnels people directly to a particular stakehouse. So somebody who's looking to start a business around it, or wants sort of an easy interface for customers to come in and deposit their validators with their stakehouse using their node running services, that can all be set as a default within the UI that you're seeing, so that it directs people directly to your nodes and your business.
Cool. So one thing that we have to tell, Stakehouse is not only setting a new standard, but it also brings, in order to make sure the information propagation that we're showing here, you can see that your BLS validator key here and everything happening on the consensus layer, the active state is getting updated on execution layer. These are two different chains today, right? We haven't got that's the merge thing, but these are two different chains. But you get all the data from the one chain to another by yourself without having an intermediary. And all your stake validator details are here exposed on Ethereum. Now this is fetched with the graph. You can use Node, you can use other tools, any tools that you want to, because this is actually in Ethereum. And now this is propagated, so any DeFi dApps can basically serve you. You don't really need an intermediary. So this kind of programmable layer sitting in between the staking and to make it available to whole world. You can present your validator, yield or collectives of validators yield, and you can lobby, you can do everything like a pooling, but you don't really have to dilute yourself because your data is available on Ethereum 1. And this is the biggest thing, but unfortunately, Etherscan will not fetch a lot of details from the node. They only fetch like the token balances and things like that. So we created this kind of registry model, that's completely new thing, so you don't really have to consume a lot of gas. The data is exposed and available for everyone can see it from the node itself. But we have to show these things to our users, so we're just showing through the graph. That's why you're seeing it's on the graph. You can still see the tokens that has been minted, but the registry will allow you to show a lot of other details, so you can go and show your tokens to other chain as well. So you can basically see all the details here, but that's not the end. This is just the beginning. Once the mainnet just hits on, this is like a perpetual yield is available for the DeFi dApps, and that is available through the validators, right? Existing node runners. So they are basically negotiating with existing guys to bring more guys. And more people who just want to buy a DETH, they'll be buying from Uniswap or elsewhere, but who is going to collect those fees is the existing users. So more people get staked, you're going to make more from this, the recursive, onboarding. So we basically trying to use the coordination mechanism of the DeFi to bring more people into Ethereum staking without learning more about it. Even if you have a $10 or $100, if you have $100,000 like 32 ETH, you can participate. You can hold a piece of that. You can be you can validate the decentralized network and things like that. But the other side of the whole argument is the who is running the machines, and that's where the DAppNode is like the individualized decentralized network. We have more diversity, so this also brings kind of a reinforcing decentralization in a way. Even if the big boy steps in, the small guys will not get diluted. They get benefited from, because the DETH is aggregate liquidity. You're not going to get diluted. More people using the DETH, you can go and have your own pockets of yield, but you never get diluted because it's zero commissions. No one can argue with that. But your yield is available. Your uptime is available live. Your all the benefits. Why? So when we have this kind of a fair playing field that's been set, there's no more manipulation. Then it's more about the principles. It's not about what you're doing. It's about why you're doing. And that's where we're coming, why we are here as a decentralization, why we want to have decentralized technologies to exist, and why we want to give this kind of a permissionless stack. And this is the basic primitive of blockchain. If Infura goes down, you can go to DAppNode. If those centralized things, you need this kind of small starfish kind of decentralized nodes to exist if we want to get to a sovereign financial network to build. And we're just trying to help that in a way to create toolings to everyone to grow together. That's what we're doing here. So that's a Stakehouse. Stakehouse is just a smart contract suite, immutable. It's immutable. No one is behind it. It just like Uniswap. It just create this kind of a dual factor registry to recreate liquidity for ETH, at the same time reinforce the staking security guarantees for the consensus layer. I mean, too much
Yeah,
jargon there.
no,
Sorry.
I think that's good. And this is a good point where, if people have questions, they can come in. Otherwise, I can share my screen and kind of talk through a few more details. Because a question we get a lot while talking to people, is like, no commissions. Like, how does this work? Like, why is it being built then? And really, we see the public benefit of having this sort of infrastructure in place. And, we see how people can build tools around it, and we want to build tools around it ourselves. So it's very much kind of like, put these out there. It helps everybody. Anybody who's involved with the staking process, anybody who wants just $10 in, they can collect gas fees, MEV rewards, they can collect staking rewards, they can collect anything they want, not pay a commission. But at the same time, the tools that can be built on the other end are huge. So yeah, if anybody has any questions, feel free to kind of chime in here. I'll leave this diagram up. This is sort of that DeFi staking that we were talking about of holding, getting rid of derivative ETH and ending up with a kind of a positive sum.
Just to add one sentence, if I may.
Yeah, sure.
DAppNode Crowd, you don't really have to change anything in your configuration to use it. Nothing. Just plug and play. Because everything, your node, just node. There's nothing we are bringing, we're on the other side, like bringing the staked, making it available, more people who want to stake, making it available for the decentralized community node runners. That's all we'll be doing. So you don't really have to do any additional thing, but we just want to show that in August 19 on Devconnect. Come by. Always.
Yeah, exactly. We want. Go ahead,
Derek. Sorry.
No, I was just going to say, yeah, we're having this event on the 19th of August at Devconnect, and it'd be great to chat with some people and get some more input and answer any sort of questions people have, which I'm sure there will be after this talk. And yeah, get to know a few of you.
So does that mean that this can run on top of SSV, shared secret validator?
It is
Yeah,
already
of
running on SS3.
Yeah. So that's
Yeah.
when people are using the testnet, they have the drag and drop for key store files. So that's what a lot of people are doing is they're setting up their validator in 60 seconds, then just dropping it to SSV, and they're up and running.
Brilliant.
Yeah, so it's completely compatible with all.
If you want to see it, I can show you.
Yeah, it's completely compatible with everything that's going on right now with node runners.
This is absolutely mind-blowing. I mean, when we spoke, it was already pretty powerful, but seeing it in action has completely blown my mind. So you're telling me that this thing that we've done in 60 seconds, we generated the key store with absolutely no complexity at all, and we can just drop that key store in the same way that we drop it in the Prism UI right now, or we will in a couple of weeks do it into the Web3 signer in order to be able to be multi-client, and we're validating.
Yes, sir. Yes.
All right. Okay.
Yeah, that's correct. I can drop my files here right now on SSV if you guys want to see it.
Go ahead and show it.
Yeah. It's very easy.
It's just easy. Super easy. 30 seconds.
I think
60 seconds.
Yeah.
Cool. Put my password.
I think you got to share your screen, so at least.
Sorry.
We're seeing it. We're seeing it.
Choose
okay,
table
cool.
stake.
Cool. Sorry.
Yeah, who should I choose here, guys?
Table stake.
Choose DAppNode Lansky, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, there we go. Yep.
You're running 2 of my validators, by the way, Lansky.
There we go. Anybody else? We'll get boss. There's a lot of good ones here.
Anybody here? Anybody in the call?
DAppNode G Beast. He's on the call.
DAppNode G Beast.
G-
There he is.
G-Beast.
Got him. Cool. That looks good to me.
Very cool.
There we are, up and running. And now in 8 hours, I can go and mint my derivatives. Just that easy.
Great. Okay. Some questions, some things that I think it was pretty clear. It was a really good presentation. I'm sure there's a lot of questions. I will start with a couple. Just to be absolutely clear, if I understood correctly, we have the ETH that its underlying asset is the staked ETH, and therefore what it derivates is the validation rewards. And then we have slot, which what it's tokenizing is the rewards, so the block fees. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Matt.
Yeah. Perfect.
Yeah.
Then my question. Then if this part is correct, my question is, why the numbers? Why the 24 DETH and 8 slot? Is there any reason for that?
Yeah, I can take that. So 24D. So this is something to do with the leakage, how long it will take to leak, and what kind of buffer that we need to keep. So in Beacon chain, you can have maximum, caveat intended. 16 is the maximum to get leaked before you get kicked out. I'm just removing the edge cases. I know that. So 16 is the thing. We want to optimize that to 8. So 50% lesser slashing risk if you're just getting leaked. But in Stakehouse, the slot is basically allowing to get this network health, the house health or the validator health to optimum level. So it just further break down into that 8 slow token into 4 and 4. Like the 4 slow tokens are collateralized, so it's kind of pledged. And then the rest of the 4 tokens were given to the user, and it's like floating, and they can give. So the reason is like that has been enough with our simulation to get the Stakehouse in an optimal level and to keep the validation going on. The key reason behind this is slow tokens are representation of the ownership rights of the validator revenue. So validator revenue, if you are not, most of them knows about the gas fees, but there are more into that gas fees in the validator revenue, the network revenue of ETH. Network revenue of ETH is still not very clear to the outside world today because it is in the hands of few proof of work miners. But it's not only about the gas. There's a lot of the transaction ordering has a lot of other aspects. When the merge comes in, every block is producing at 12 seconds at a specific slot, and so some milliseconds are more valuable. Basically, who wants that? And the validators, the 32 ETH validators, the 8 slot token are the validator representatives. They are the one who can syndicate and syndication of it. So we ran a lot of simulations and how much we can reduce the slashing risk through this kind of crypto economics, and we arrived to that 8 slow token, and that's more than enough to keep it. Even that will never get to that 8. After 4, it will automatically kick the validator. That's more into the documentation of technical documenter Stakehouse will come to know. But that's the reason that why we set the 24 and 8. But this 8 slow token is further denominated as a SETH. So everything in the system as a unit of account is ETH. So SETH is the tokens that is being given out for the 8. This kind of a share. Slot is a share of validator, and further that will tie up into house. There's a lot of other elements in the Stakehouse. Technically, I'm not going to dive into it today because it's complicated. It's about 6,000 lines of code, just to give you some example of how we're making this available to ETH. So in a very nutshell, yeah, that 8 has been adopted after a lot of simulation as conducted to see how long the leakage will take it in a normal way. Once you real slashing, you get kicked out of network. That's a different story, right? So what we are only looking at the leakage.
Has the contract been audited yet?
We have completed 2 audits and it's been published, and another 2 formal verification audit is currently getting completed. So that will also come. So And apart from this, we have done 2 simulations that's also going to get published. And the core contracts that we're saying, the one that we showed, the DETH and slow token issue, the registry tokens, the kernel, that was lively tested in last year as we called CommunityNet. We simulated more than 24,000 validators who were issuing shares. That was actually simulated within the Ringiby and the other thing because the contract needs to be tested in that way. So we simulated about 5.5 billion worth of ETH at that point of time, like 24,000 validators being added. And further to that, those validator shares, the DETH, were further distributed to another 24,000 stakers. So that's also available. All this is on chain. So none of these validators were basically done by our team. It's all by our community. So we had amazed all our community from this testing. Because this is a new kind of contracts, we had to test. So we did the stress test of the core contracts from the last year, and then we went to the audit. 2 audits were published. The formal verification by the leading guys, Sartor and Runtime, and the guys who actually checked the Ethereum deposit contracts, they were checking it. That will also get published in the D course. Now we are just testing all the journey and everything. And again, Stakehouse is just an immutable contract. There is once it is deployed, it just works there. It just lives there in the Ethereum blockchain forever. No one has to do anything. We don't have to. It's just there.
Yeah. So just to kind of sum it up, there was a considerable amount of security testing, starting with the CommunityNet, which was to test the core contracts, at mass. We had what is this, 26,000 here, and then after that was concluded, then we got into the formal audits with Hellborn. They had a nice thing to say here about Stakehouse, and then Solidified, and now we're heading, beyond all the simulation reports that we're doing. We are doing formal verification as well.
Beautiful. My other question was, could you dig a little bit deeper in the concept of Stakehouse? Why should I join an already existing Stakehouse versus creating my own Stakehouse versus what advantages do I have from joining one, et cetera, et cetera?
So it's pretty similar. A Stakehouse, you could consider it almost like a validator pool, but they're more like collectives of validators in the sense that you join the pool and then all the slot tokens, each one is fungible throughout the house. So if one gets a reward, they all get a reward. Compared to if you want to create your own Stakehouse and gate it to only letting a certain amount of people in, well then you're only sharing rewards with the people in your house. So there's a few, that's kind of where we came up with this idea of forking the UI in this regard here, where people can come in, and if they want to say set up 10, 20, 30 validators, whatever it might be, they can come and set it up so that all of the people who come in go directly to their node running services. Here we have general node operators because we're agnostic. People can do whatever they want. We don't have control over that. But somebody could come here and put their own node operation to push everybody who signs up to their Stakehouse to their node running services to keep it all up to the standard that they want with their validator collective.
So, in a way, why do you want to have a Stakehouse? So, how do you want to represent as a collective? What is your collective power of your, Ethereum, maintaining an Ethereum stake, right? Ethereum stake is not just the money; it's about security and you. So if you have let's say 100 validators in your collective, and you can just go and say I have I get every 2 minutes 1 block, validate on average. You can start negotiating. You have this kind of collective power with the slow token. You can put up a pool and say that this slow token goes into a pool, and you can start negotiating with some kind of a DeFi dApp or NFTs. We can give you subsidized NFT drop. You give us something back, right? That's a mempool thing. But now you can come with another collective, that's a DAppNode collective DAppNode can have like multiple collectives. They can all come together and say that we're on this and this pool that's slow token. So you don't really have to understand who is in the consensus layer. You get all this data as a token in ETH because the slow token basically gives you that kind of representation. So it's basically answering that question: why do you need to come together? It's just like shelling points, right, of common interest. If you have a common interest, you want to advocate for that, then create a stakehouse, and you can create kind of like in a constitution for that, like in a very simple way. Why do we stand? It's kind of a DAO. Like what do we stand for? And we want to do more. We want to bring more value to this kind of section of a society, or the applications to get some kind of subsidies. If you are a validator who actually align with our values, come and join our collective, right? And now you can go further. If you are, we're talking a permissionless way, but some of them actually have some jurisdictional issues. Like if they are institutions, they can gatekeep it, like show the KYC and things like that. They can do that just like a pool, right? But that's outside of Stakehouse. They can just basically plug in. But you can basically say that show us if you have some kind of a value that resonate with us, then come into it. So the KYC doesn't really need to be your identities, but it can also be based on values, right? If you're part of our DAO, then you'll be part of us. You can add your validator to our Stakehouse. You can program it. So your collectives are value-based common interest. And this is where what I talked about. It's not about how much money you have, like what you're doing. It just gets to why you're doing it. It's like in a clean community, value building. It's kind of a tapestry of value building. You can stitch any way that you want, but you have reputation on chain. Everyone can see it, what you're doing and how you're done.
Thank you. That was a great explanation. I'm gonna see if anybody else has any questions, and otherwise I've got a couple more in my belt. But anybody?
Yeah, happy to answer any question you guys have.
All right. So
Is there a way?
you've been muted. Yeah.
Is there a way to prevent people from unstaking their ETH? What happens if they kind of use their keys and unstaked it without going through your interface, or what happens there?
When you say unstake, you mean the guy who actually staked the ETH and have a validator?
Yeah.
Yeah. You want to unstake if the Ethereum enable withdrawal. So there are two unstaking, right? If you want to rage quit, so let's take this kind of rage quit mechanism, right? Exit. If you want to exit from Stakehouse, you can exit from Stakehouse tomorrow. If you want to unstake from, remove everything. I don't want to do anything with the Stakehouse. I'm going to burn my DETH and slow tokens. Yeah, you can do that.
Sorry, let's just clarify what you mean, like unregistering from the Stakehouse registry. You're keeping your validator staked.
I was thinking more like, what would happen if somebody, or would they be able to just like exit their validators without telling you, for example, and what would happen at the Stakehouse layer?
It's your ETH. You can do whatever you want. If you wanna remove yourself from the Stakehouse, and if the withdrawal has been enabled on Ethereum, you can withdraw that from the beacon chain. You can do anything you want. It doesn't really have to take any permission from Stakehouse. Like you just go and burn your DETH and slow tokens. Boom, you're out. You're out from the Stakehouse, but then withdrawing from the beacon chain is something to do with the Ethereum thing, right? So you have to go through that step too. So that's a different process. But you can basically step out of Stakehouse itself.
Can they do that without first withdrawing from Stakehouse?
No. You need to burn your derivatives if you want to withdraw, because you already minted derivative using your state. And if you go back to the consensus layer, it will tell you that now you have to burn your derivatives on the execution layer.
Okay.
Yeah. We're coming as a one chain.
Basically, if I have in my validator, so I have a validator that I have put with some people and in my DAppNodes, and my 3-year-old all of a sudden I've left the computer up and my 3-year-old just presses the exit button, So what happens is that this validator will exit, and whoever owns the derivatives for this validator will be able to then go and redeem that for actual ETH, and then maybe like send me an email like, "What the fuck, man?" and then stake it again if they didn't want to stake that. Is that correct?
Yeah, if your validator just do that, the withdrawal exit, they still need to redeem, but kind of correct. Yeah, we can agree there. But just like you will not, the derivative holders will not lose their money to someone else.
Exactly. Yeah, absolutely not. Totally the opposite. They will maybe they will miss out on the rewards that would happen in the process of withdrawing and redoing another validator, etc. But there's no way that they would lose their money, or that I could run away with their money by having the validator in my machine, etc. I think this.
Yes. So in the one-liner, the base assumption, the base state, is a failed coordination of Stakehouse, right? That's the base state. The coordination is so everything is coming from there, like. So you don't really need to trust anybody in the system. So your money will never get lost. Don't worry about it. That's the ultimate security how it happens. Yeah.
One last question. So let's say GVs, Rockman71, Walrus, and YK Player 8 and me want to use Stakehouse, but none of us have 32 ETH. We all have a part of it. How do we use Stakehouse?
So, for what purpose you want to use it? You wanna be a validator, or you just want to just stake 32 ETH? You wanna pool money and put 32 ETH?
Yes, and
just
one of us will be running
pooling,
the
right?
validator.
Vanilla pooling, right? So, pun intended, but just like saying that you can create a meta pooling for Stakehouse before you putting 32 ETH. Maybe you will see that code giving out for free as a use case. Like this is something which is really coming it's a programmable layer. DAOs can basically pool, take USDC and just create a token and send it to 32 ETH into Stakehouse and bring back and redistribute that for the redeeming. It's all possible. But once it comes in the mainnet, we may throw that to the users to make it easy for them to pull outside of it and syndicate it. This kind of thing, the meta pooling. It's possible. It's totally easy to do it. We haven't done that as a part of our package, but that's not a core of the Stakehouse. Currently, it needed 32 ETH, but anyone can pool money outside of creating that 32 ETH. That's the current stake pooling do it, right? You can pool it and you can just send it to us as batch by batch, and then you can redeem it, all that 32 ETH into this participants as a meta pooling. That's totally possible. We may throw.
You could also like I understand if you want to own the validator, it's different. But if you just want access to the network fees and you want access to the MEV rewards, the gas, you can just purchase slot tokens from somebody else who's staked, who maybe wants to lower their cost basis on their validator. So you could purchase those slot tokens and then collect the rewards from their validator rather than actually staking your own if you don't have the 32 ETH.
Yeah, that's also possible. But
that's a really good option for DAppNode users, right?
Yeah.
DAppNode users that do not have 32 ETH right now, they could just decide to get some slot tokens and run the validator in their machine, and therefore they would get rewarded for running this via the rewards that they get through the slot token.
Yeah, cash flows are much bigger than your stake rewards, because more Ethereum gets staked, your stake reward rate will come down. But the cash flow, that's a huge number. It's billions of dollars getting processed by Ethereum network, and that belongs to slow tokens. So yeah, of course, DAppNode users will be more inclined towards that kind of cash flows. Yeah, and then you can get that slow tokens by just honoring 8 ETH and let the other people just take that risk free. But it's all depends on your reputation, because you're running this validator. You can just collect all those things. There's a lot of things that you can do once this data is available for programmable layer.
Beautiful.
That was very clear how DAppNodes can immediately start participating in this network, even though they wouldn't have, well, maybe any ETH at all. Maybe they would reach some kind of agreement and they would get this slow token, so they would have skin in the game in order to run this validator.
It's interesting you say that, because that's a scenario we've been chatting about internally as well. Is you know, rather than getting paid necessarily a fee to run somebody's ETH validator, now what people could do is set up some sort of agreement where they say hold on to one person's slot token and collect the rewards. What is that, like 12.5% of the rewards from the validator, to in exchange for running the validator and running the node for an individual, rather than collecting, you know, say X amount of tokens where you don't know what the value is going to be, or, you know, having some sort of cash agreement. You can, the more you perform, the better you perform. Now it's a direct relation to how much you get paid.
Exactly. Yeah. All right, I don't have more questions. That was an amazing presentation. We're also about at the hour time right now, because we started a little bit late. So let's just wait until, well, let's just open it up for one last question, if there is any. Nope.
I guess one. I've joined a little bit late, so I apologize if I missed it. But did you do a comparison for other non-custodial like staking solutions, like maybe comparison against Rocket Pool or something like that, or Lido, or?
Everyone can
Well,
have their own stakehouse.
Yeah, so that's kind of what's great about this is it's very much a middle layer where anybody who's interacting with the beacon chain on any level can actually extract value using this. I don't know how late you joined, but sort of what Stakehouse is doing is creating this connection between the consensus layer and the execution layer, where people are able to claw back and have derivatives that are actually redeemable for the underlying ETH in the validator, which I'm not sure is possible with other options right now.
Got it. Thanks.
All right. So I will, if there's no more questions, what I will do is I will post the video in DAppNode channels for you to review it again and share it with whoever you think it's important, and to review it again. So so that'll happen in the DAppNode channel. One other thing that we can do is to create a bridge channel between our Discord server and your Discord server, so people can ask questions to the team, and we have this open communication channel. And again, whoever is going to be at Devconnect, they will be there and we will be there. So we will do something together. So definitely think about joining us in Amsterdam, and you will be able to maybe win a DAppNode.
Cool.
Thank you very much, guys, for explaining it.
Yeah, thank you everybody for coming, and yeah, we're always available for questions. I can drop a message in the chat with a few more resources if you guys want to do some more research, and then yeah, feel free to hit me up on the side or in any of the channels.